They mocked her beneath the amber glow of Viridian's 3 moons, her delicate blue fingers trembling as she signed words no one bothered to understand. The floating restaurant, suspended like a jewel above the crystalline canals of New Havana, was filled with laughter. But none of it was kind. Every cruel gesture from her date echoed across the translucent tables, yet none of the elegant patrons saw the fading light in her lavender eyes. None of them, except one, and what he would do next would change not just her night, but the destiny of 2 species forever. Before we start, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love hearing from you and always read every message. The Celestial Garden restaurant rotated slowly above New Havana's entertainment district, its transparent floors revealing bioluminescent waterways 300 meters below. Viridian's capital sprawled in elegant spirals, where human colonial architecture merged with native Thalassian aesthetics. Buildings that seemed grown rather than built, their surfaces rippling with soft pulses of light. Lyra sat rigid in her chair, the red dress she'd carefully chosen now feeling like a costume of humiliation. Her skin, pale lavender, characteristic of Thalassian descent, seemed to glow faintly under the restaurant's ambient lighting, making her even more conspicuous. Her pointed ears twitched involuntarily at every sound she couldn't hear. Across from her, David Chen checked his comm device for the 7th time in 15 minutes, his jaw tight with barely concealed annoyance. He was handsome in that effortless human way, sharp features, confident posture, expensive casual wear that screamed interspecies dating as social experiment. Lyra's hands moved gracefully through the air, forming the elegant gestures of Thalassian sign language. Her genetic deafness, shared by 10% of her species, had made signing her primary language since birth. David's eyes flicked to her hands with unconcealed impatience. "Can you ask her if she wants the synthetic protein or the actual fish?" he said loudly to a passing server. "I don't know what she's saying with her hands." The server looked uncomfortable. "Sir, the translation interface on the table." "Yeah, I know about the interface," David interrupted. "I just thought this would be easier, more natural." He looked at Lyra with something between pity and frustration. "My friend said Thalassians were exotic. He didn't mention they couldn't actually talk." Lyra's hands stilled. She'd learned to read lips in 3 human languages, and every word landed like a physical blow. Her fingers moved again, slower. "I can communicate perfectly well. You simply choose not to listen." David didn't even look. He was typing on his comm device. At the adjacent table, a man sat with a young girl who couldn't have been more than 7. He wore a simple gray shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Nothing remarkable except the quiet strength in his eyes as he watched his daughter color on a digital pad. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, and a pale line on his ring finger suggested a wedding band recently removed. The girl looked up, and her hands began to move in fluid, practiced gestures. The man's hands responded immediately, their silent conversation flowing with the ease of long practice, filled with warmth and understanding. Lyra noticed them peripherally, her enhanced spatial awareness picking up the movement. David sighed heavily, theatrical and meant to be noticed. "Look, you seem nice and all, but I don't think this is going to work out. The whole communication thing is just too complicated. I'm looking for something simpler." He stood, pulling out his credit chip. "Dinner's on me. Consider it a cultural exchange thing." He walked away without waiting for a response he wouldn't have understood anyway. Lyra sat frozen, her hands folded in her lap, the red dress suddenly grotesque. Around her, other diners pretended not to notice, but she could feel their eyes. Proof that human Thalassian relationships were doomed from the start. But at the next table, the little girl tugged her father's sleeve, her hands moving urgently. But what the child signed to her father would set in motion something neither Lyra nor anyone in that restaurant could have anticipated. A simple gesture that would echo across two worlds. "That man was cruel, Papa," Elena signed, her lips pursed with indignation. "The blue lady understands signs like us. Why did he leave her?" Jackson Rivera looked at his daughter with pride and heartache. Elena had been born deaf, and his wife Maria had insisted their daughter was perfect as she was. When the speeder accident took Maria 2 years ago, it left Jackson scrambling to be both parents. "Some people don't know how to listen with anything but their ears, Pequeña." Jackson signed back. "It makes them miss important things." "She's sad," Elena signed. "Can we help her?" Jackson glanced at Lyra. She sat with carefully maintained composure, the mask people wore when breaking apart inside but couldn't show it. Her luminescent skin had dimmed slightly, a Thalassian physiological response to distress. Jackson made a decision that surprised himself. He stood, touching Elena's shoulder, and signed, "Wait here." He approached Lyra's table carefully. When he was close enough, he moved into her line of sight and began to sign in standard galactic sign language. "Excuse me," his hand said. "I couldn't help but notice you were signing earlier. My daughter and I wanted you to know that you deserve better than what just happened." Lyra's head snapped up, her lavender eyes widening in shock. She stared at this human man who spoke her language without voice. Her hands rose hesitantly. You know how to sign?" "My daughter is deaf," Jackson signed, gesturing toward Elena, who waved enthusiastically. "We learned standard GSL, but I've been studying Thalassian variants too. Your language is beautiful. It shouldn't be treated like a barrier." Tears welled in Lyra's eyes. "Most humans don't even try. Then they're not looking at the right things," Jackson signed with a slight smile. "Understanding is understanding. The medium doesn't matter, the intention does." Around them, diners began to notice. Some watched with curiosity, others with uncomfortable awareness. Elena couldn't contain herself. She slipped from her seat and approached, taking Lyra's hand. "Hi, I'm Elena. Are you okay? That man was mean. Papa says mean people are just scared. Do you want to eat with us? We have desserts coming." Lyra looked down at this tiny human girl with earnest eyes and confident signs, and something inside her loosened. "Hello, Elena. I'm Lyra. I would like that very much. Thank you for your kindness." The server approached tentatively. "Miss, would you like me to move your table setting?" Lyra stood before she could finish, gathering her purse with quiet dignity. "Yes, please." Within moments, the three of them sat together. A deaf human child, a single father, and a Thalassian woman who'd expected rejection but found connection instead. But as Lyra settled into her new seat, a figure approached their table. One who would challenge everything that had just begun, forcing them to defend not just their choices, but the very possibility of connection across species lines. Director Sarah Westbrook wore the crisp uniform of the Colonial Integration Office, navy suit with the dual species emblem. She'd been dining 3 tables away, but this scene apparently demanded her intervention. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying false warmth. She looked directly at Jackson, not acknowledging Lyra. "I'm Director Westbrook with Colonial Integration. I couldn't help but notice you've invited this Thalassian to join your family table." Jackson's jaw tightened. He signed to Elena and Lyra. "One moment," then looked up. "Yes, Director. Is there a problem?" "Not a problem exactly. I wanted to ensure you understand the complications that can arise from cross-species social interactions, especially when children are involved. Cultural differences, communication barriers, things that can be confusing for young minds." Elena's hands moved sharply, and though Westbrook couldn't understand, the child's defiance was universal. Lyra gently touched Elena's shoulder, calming her. "My daughter understands differences better than most adults," Jackson said quietly, steel beneath the politeness. "She lives them every day. Communication barriers don't confuse her, willful ignorance does." Westbrook's expression flickered with irritation. "Mr. Rivera, the Integration Office has protocols for human Thalassian contact, especially in public settings. These exist to prevent misunderstandings." "Protect," Jackson repeated. "This woman was just humiliated and abandoned. We offered kindness. What needs protecting?" Westbrook's eyes finally flicked to Lyra. "Thalassians process social interactions differently. What you interpret as kindness might be received as something else. They don't understand boundaries the way we do." Lyra's hands moved sharply. Jackson read them and translated aloud. She says, "I understand boundaries perfectly. What I don't understand is why your office claims to promote integration while enforcing separation. What I don't understand is how a civilization that traveled between stars can't manage basic empathy." Several diners turned to watch, the confrontation becoming spectacle. Someone pulled out a comm device, recording. Westbrook's face flushed. "I don't think you understand who you're dealing with." "I understand perfectly," Jackson replied, standing to full height. "I'm dealing with someone who sees my daughter's deafness as something to be fixed, who sees this woman's species as something to be managed. I'm dealing with bureaucracy that mistakes control for community." Elena tugged Lyra's sleeve. "Why is that woman being mean?" Lyra signed back. "Some people need the world to stay in small boxes. When they see something that doesn't fit, it frightens them." Westbrook straightened her jacket. "Mr. Rivera, I strongly advise you to reconsider this arrangement. This kind of public display could affect your daughter's social placement, her educational opportunities." "Are you threatening my child?" Jackson's voice dropped, dangerously quiet. "I'm offering advice. Think about what's best for your daughter. Consider whether your generosity is actually helping or simply making yourself feel enlightened." She walked away, returning to her colleagues who nodded approvingly. Jackson sat down slowly, hands trembling with suppressed anger. Elena climbed into his lap, small arms wrapping around his neck. Lyra sat very still, her luminescence dimmed. "Perhaps I should go. I don't want to cause problems." "Stop," Jackson signed firmly. "Don't let her do that. Don't let her make you believe your presence is the problem." "But your daughter..." "My daughter is learning the most important lesson I can teach her. That kindness matters more than protocol. That understanding matters more than comfort." Elena's hands moved between them. "Papa's right. You're our friend now. Friends don't leave because mean people say mean things." The restaurant manager approached with genuine warmth. "Your desserts. Compliments of the house. You're welcome here." But as they began to eat, none of them noticed the man in the corner who'd recorded the entire exchange. A journalist whose video would go viral before the night ended, turning a simple act of kindness into something far larger and more dangerous than any of them could imagine. The desserts glowed faintly with bioluminescent enzymes. Elena's eyes widened. "They glow like you do." Lyra managed a genuine smile. "When Thalassians feel happy, our skin lights up. We can't hide our feelings." "I like that," Elena signed. "Everyone would know if you were sad and could help." As they ate, Lyra asked questions about Elena's life, her school, her interests. Elena answered with unself-conscious enthusiasm, painting pictures of playground adventures and her collection of vintage Earth books. "Mama started the collection," Elena signed, movements slowing. "Before she died, Papa keeps adding to it." Lyra's hands moved with profound gentleness. "Your mama sounds wonderful." "She was," Jackson signed, throat tight. She taught me the most important thing was teaching Elena to be proud of who she is. To see her deafness not as something missing, but as a different way of experiencing the world. A complete way. Lyra's gaze met his, recognition of shared experience, of fighting daily against a world that saw difference as deficit. Thalassians have a saying. Lyra signed slowly. The universe speaks in countless languages, but wisdom is understanding that silence and sound are just different dialects of the same truth. Movement near the entrance caught Jackson's attention. A crowd had gathered, comm devices out, pointing toward their table. The manager approached, troubled. "I'm sorry, but you've become noticed. Someone recorded your interaction with Director Westbrook. It's spreading on social feeds." She projected a holographic display. "Human father defies integration office. Cross-species friendship or dangerous precedent." Views climbed rapidly. Comments poured in, some supportive, many hostile. The video played on loop. "They're making it political," Jackson said quietly, turning basic decency into a debate. Elena signed with confusion, "But we didn't do anything wrong." "You're right, Pequeña," Lyra signed, "but sometimes people need to fight about things because they're afraid." More whispers rippled through the restaurant. Someone called out, "Is that them?" A well-dressed woman approached. "Mr. Rivera, what you did matters. Some of us have been trying to change integration policies for years." She looked at Lyra. "You deserve respect." But another figure appeared, a young man with a sneer. "Yeah, respect, but not at the expense of human safety. Next thing, they'll want our schools, our neighborhoods." "They want what everyone wants," Jackson interrupted sharply. "To be treated like people. Is that threatening?" "Easy for you to say when you're not losing jobs to Thalassian workers." "My daughter is deaf," Jackson said, standing. "She knows what it's like to be treated as less than, and I'll be damned if I teach her that kind of thinking is acceptable." The restaurant erupted into murmurs, agreeing, arguing, transforming into a microcosm of larger tensions. Eleanor's hands moved urgently. "Papa, I'm scared." Lyra took Elena's hands in her lavender ones. "Don't be scared, precious one. Be brave. What we're doing, your papa, you, me, we're showing everyone that fear doesn't have to win. That kindness can be stronger than protocol." But as Lyra finished signing, the restaurant doors opened again, and a group entered that would transform this private moment into something far more consequential, bringing the full weight of institutions threatened by what simple kindness might inspire. Councillor James Hartford entered with the formal robes of the Colonial Council, his silver beard giving him sculptural authority. Behind him walked Councillor Ceres Thyron, a Thalassian woman with deeper blue skin, her luminescent markers pulsing with political wariness. The restaurant fell silent. "Mr. Rivera," Hartford said, voice resonant with practiced authority, "you've caused quite a stir." Jackson remained standing, Elena in his arms. "We had dinner together, Counselor. I wasn't aware that required commentary. When that dinner is broadcast as evidence of integration office overreach, when it challenges carefully constructed protocols, it becomes political." Thyron stepped forward, signing as she spoke. "Mr. Rivera, Director Westbrook's approach was inappropriate, but her concerns aren't baseless. Integration is complex. Rushing it can create backlash that hurts both species." Lyra's hands moved sharply. "Counselor, with respect, I'm not an experiment. I'm a person who wanted dinner, who was humiliated, who was shown kindness. Why does that need to be complex?" Hartford frowned. "Your presence at this table is being used by activists to push for rapid integration, to dismantle safeguards." "From what?" Jackson interrupted. "From understanding, from friendship." Elena looked at Hartford, her small hands moving with devastating simplicity. "Why are you angry that we made a friend?" The question hung unanswerable. Thyron's hands moved. The child asks the only question that matters. "This isn't about friendship," Hartford began. "It's about order, structure. It's about fear." Lyra signed, movements sharp. Jackson translated, "Fear that if humans and Thalassians actually connect, actually see each other as individuals, the systems that keep us separate will fall apart. Those systems employ people, give them power." Her luminescence built until she glowed from within. "I work at the Colonial Archive. I process historical records. I've read early post-contact documents before your office sanitized them. I've seen proposals for full integration rejected not because they were dangerous, but because they were inconvenient. True equality meant sharing power. It was easier to create departments and protocols than actually treat my people as equals." The restaurant was utterly silent. Thyron stepped closer, authority in her signs. "You've read the Tethys Accords, the original drafts?" Lyra nodded. "The ones proposing shared governance from the beginning? Equal representation, integrated education, the ones rejected as premature?" Hartford's face darkened. "Those documents are classified. They're historical records," Lyra signed. "Accessible to any archivist with proper clearance. They show integration could have happened 2 decades ago, but it was deemed too risky, not for our species, but for power structures on both sides who benefited from maintaining separation." Elena's hands cut through the tension. "So you all agree we should be friends? You just don't want to say it because it makes your jobs harder." From a child, the truth was undeniable. Thyron knelt to Elena's level, robes pooling around her. "Small one, you are wiser than all of us. Yes, we should all be friends. I'm sorry adults make simple things complicated." She stood, facing Hartford. "Counselor, I move that the Colonial Council review all Integration Office protocols with the goal of removing barriers to genuine social connection." Hartford's calculation was visible. Finally, he nodded stiffly. "The Council will consider such a review." But as the councillors turned to leave, commotion erupted near the entrance. Protesters gathering, their resistance revealing just how much stood against the simple idea that 2 species might actually become one community. Protesters had gathered outside, humans holding humans first signs, and disturbingly, some Thalassians with Preserve Thalassian Purity banners. Fear existed on both sides. Elena buried her face in her father's shoulder. Lyra's luminescence flickered erratically with stress. "We need to go," Jackson signed. But Thyron turned back. "No, don't run. That's what they want. To prove connection leads to conflict. If you stay, if we face this together, we become a different story." The manager approached. "Please remain inside until security arrives." Outside, the crowd grew. News drones hovered overhead. But then something unexpected happened. Other people arrived, humans and Thalassians together, forming a protective barrier around the restaurant. They didn't shout. They simply stood, hands linked. One woman held a child who waved at Elena, hands moving in awkward but earnest sign. "You're brave." Elena's face lifted. "Papa, look. They're protecting us." Lyra moved to the window, luminescence steadying. "I've never seen this. Thalassians and humans standing together, not at an official event, just choosing each other." Hartford approached quietly. "Mr. Rivera, what you started tonight, it's forcing conversations we've avoided for 20 years. Those conversations will get ugly before they get better." "Then maybe they need to get ugly," Jackson replied steadily. "Maybe we've been too comfortable with protocols that let us pretend we're making progress when we're maintaining the status quo." Hartford looked at Elena, then Lyra. "Your daughter, when the backlash comes, and it will, she'll be targeted. Are you prepared?" "No," Jackson admitted. I'm terrified, but I'm more terrified of teaching Elena that fear is a reason to ignore what's right. My wife died because of someone's careless convenience. That kind of prioritizing comfort over others' safety, it kills people, it kills communities, it kills possibility. Lyra's hands moved. In Thalassian philosophy we have lumeris, the light we carry that illuminates the path for others. To be visible is to be vulnerable, but also to be a guide. Tonight, we're all visible. And maybe that's what needed to happen. Elena signed. Mama said being deaf meant I experienced the world differently, not less. She said I could teach people to communicate better. You glow when you feel. I sign when I talk. Papa speaks but listens with his hands. We're all different, but we're all talking. That's what those people don't understand. From a 7-year-old, the solution seemed simple. Security arrived, dispersing protesters. The supporters lingered, waving before departing. Thyron approached one final time. What you've done will resonate beyond this city. I will fight for real change. But there will be backlash. Please be careful. As the restaurant calmed, Jackson, Elena, and Lyra remained at their table. What happens now? Lyra signed. I don't know. Jackson's hands moved thoughtfully. But Elena and I would like to see you again, as friends. Lyra's luminescence pulsed with hope and gratitude. I would like that very much. Elena signed excitedly. Can we show you our book collection? Papa has Thalassian poetry, but the rhythm is hard. I'd be honored to help, Lyra signed, genuine smile reaching her eyes. As they stood to leave with security escorts, none of them knew their friendship would become the catalyst for the most significant transformation in human-Thalassian relations since first contact, testing not just their courage, but the foundations of two civilizations learning to become one. 3 months later, the Colonial Council passed the Integration Reform Act by 7 votes to 5, with Thyron casting the decisive vote. The act dismantled restrictive protocols, transformed the Integration Office into a support service, and mandated mixed-species education programs. Director Westbrook resigned in protest. Few mourned her exit, but victory had costs. There were protests, some violent. 3 community centers were vandalized. Families like Jackson's received threats from extremists on both sides. Through it all, Jackson, Elena, and Lyra continued their friendship. Lyra became a regular presence at the Rivera home, helping Elena expand her signing vocabulary into Thalassian dimensions. Jackson found himself falling in love. Cautiously, terrified of betraying Maria's memory, but unable to deny his connection with this brilliant woman who saw his daughter as perfect. Lyra felt it too, her luminescence betraying emotions in ways human blushing never could. 6 months after their first meeting, Jackson taught Elena a Thalassian phrase. One Lyra had taught him privately, one that meant more than words could convey. That evening, as they sat on Jackson's balcony watching 3 moons rise above New Havana's bioluminescent canals, Elena's hands moved through complex signs. You illuminate our path, and we carry light for you in return. We are family, across stars and silence, united in the language that matters most. Lyra's luminescence exploded with emotion, tears streaming as she pulled Elena into a fierce hug. Her hands moved to Jackson. Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible, for teaching her to see beyond what the world said was possible. Jackson's response was simple. Thank you for taking a chance on a single dad and his stubborn daughter, for showing us the universe is bigger than our fears. Below, the city continued its eternal dance, hundreds of thousands of beings learning that connection wasn't to be managed, it was to be celebrated. The viral recording had been viewed over 200 million times, but for them, it remained what it always was. A moment when 3 people chose kindness over comfort, courage over compliance. Eleanor fell asleep between them, still signing in her dreams, her father on one side and the Thalassian woman who'd become her second mother on the other. And in that quiet evening, with 3 moons casting light on a world still learning to see itself clearly, the universe whispered its ancient truth, that consciousness yearned for connection above all else, that barriers between beings were never as solid as they seemed, that love, friendship, understanding, these transcended biology, history, fear. In a universe built on division, sometimes a single act of dignity was enough to shift the stars themselves. And slowly, beautifully, the galaxy began to listen. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it. Leave a comment. We read everyone. Until next time, remember, the light we carry illuminates not just our own path, but the way forward for everyone brave enough to follow. Tentar novamente.